Hello, listeners. Hi, my name is Madhavi, and I'm so happy to have you on UppTalk. You have come to the right place if you want to learn about IT and do really cool things with your hands. We are not just another IT company when I say UppTalk. Think of us as your learning partner dedicated to helping you reach your full potential. We have top notch hands on courses to help you build your business, whether you're new to technology or want to move up in your current job. Let's look around this as our first step towards learning.
Now you know creative and media by has a many to many relationship because one media by can have multiple creatives and one creative can be displayed across multiple media bytes. It's a many to many relationship that goes in. We have many to many relationships in our data. We get many to many relationships device targeting, which I mentioned as variable dimensions yesterday, right? We had the entity dimensions and then we had the general dimensions in which we had date and variable dimensions. As I mentioned, variable dimensions of operate across the workspace, and it is not specific to a single entity. What is an entity? An entity is something which has a unique entity, key entity name, and entity attributes, right? And that can be like campaign placement, site, creatives, etc. But then not. It is definitely, and creative ID is there, but it's an entity definitely. But do we consider it as an entity dimension or a variable entity? That's what the variable dimension. That's what we are discussing over here because an entity dimension is something which shares a unique relationship with it. And then creative, or there's also one of the entities which among them, among the creative group, definitely it is an entity because a creative ID is associated to one creative name and creative attributes if there is. But then with media by it shares a many to many relationship because one media by can accommodate multiple creatives. However, one and one creative can also get this good across media by we have creatives now. Likewise, the variable dimensions like device targeting, geo-targeting, mobile, and all these things have a many to many relationships. Now for accommodating many to many relationships in our data provides with, data provides with model fields called exchange and strategy that you see over here. Basically, exchange and strategies are nothing but empty placeholders, which can accommodate any of the dimensions which have a many to many relationship with the media by right. We are good, right? Next data set that we see is conversion tags. Conversion tag is a very simple data set whereby we have like conversion tag and conversion variable that shares a many to many relationship and the main entity of this data set being conversion tags. Search keywords is another very simple stuff whereby we have the search keyword which basically is the main entity and that's the main entity. That's basically identifying the main entity. Now, if you see all these buckets connect to each other, like all these data sets, that data set, the search keywords data set, the conversion tags data set, all these connect to each other by means of media. By why? Because all these data sets have media by as a component, not necessarily the main entity, but then we connect a database done, shared entities, right? We have discussed this earlier that we do connect data sources together by means of shared entities whereby we have the search keywords conversion tags and ads dataset connected through media by going to the next topic, data model in action. Definitely, we have the steps to categorize data. I'm not going in there anymore. Measurements, dimensions, entities, and stuff. What we will do is identify the data set types and divide the dimensions into entity and general dimensions. We have the entity, key name, attribute, and data variable. Steps to categorize data. Now we have learned about it, that we divide it into measurements and dimensions. We identify the data, set type, divide dimensions, and verify relationships. Now we have not done it like as a task for us in a real-time data. We have discussed about it. Now let's see in real time how it works. This is just like an Excel that you can have for yourself. You have the day column, the campaign ID, campaign category, placement device, impression clicks, media costs, right? I'm sure you have seen a data set like this before as well. Whenever you work with any kind of digital data now, do we see any common columns? Like, what are the commonalities in columns if we pick up? Like, if I want to group things, what is the first level of grouping that I need to do in terms of data? Measurements and dimensions, correct. Measurements are dimensions. Hey, no, what are the measurements over here? Impression clicks. Perfect. The rest are dimensions. Perfect. We have achieved that. Now, if I talk of what are the common columns, like if I pick up one entity, is there any similar columns in our data? Like pertaining to a similar entity. Campaign ID and placement. Right. Right? Those are entity. We want to, but then we have campaign name. Right? We have campaign ID, campaign category, which basically relates to the campaign bucket, and then we have placement ID, placement, and this size. Right. Those are belonging to the placement bucket. Basically what the next slides mean is, I had just kept those slides for your reference. That is, whenever we see impression clicks, media cost as part of the measurements, we tend to relate what data set it will be a part of. We see that clicks, impressions, media cost is part of the ads data set. It very much fits well into the ads dataset parts. Now, categorizing dimensions, we start with the entity dimension. There I was like, specific entities. What are the specific entities in here? Campaign ID, campaign category, and placement ID, placement, and placement size, basically. These are the two buckets in there. What are the other components of the data set that we need to do is, now that we have recognized that these are the columns which are identical, which are like in the same bucket, we need to see or verify the relationship between. First we want to see the relationship between entities, and then we will see the relationship across entities. When I see the relationship between entities, what I mean is I need to check that. campaign ID, campaign, and campaign category. Do they really have a relationship to be an entity? Like, campaign ID, if I consider as entity key, then is campaign name my entity name or campaign category my entity attribute? To verify that, what we need to do is we need to verify the relationship between these columns. How will they verify the relationship between columns? We will see. And why do we say that? Because what we need to check is that there is a one-to-one relationship between the campaign ID, like the entity key and entity name in order to qualify, like for the column campaign. In order to qualify as entity name, it has to have a one-to-one relationship with the campaign IDs. And campaign category too. In order to be an attribute of campaign ID or campaign column, it has to have a one-to-one relationship with the campaign ID. Basically, whenever an entity name or entity attribute is a part of an entity key, it always shares a one-to-one relationship. And let's verify that this is called verifying relationship between entities. And then we want to see the campaign ID and placement ID. And why will we do that? We will see why will we do that. But that is called verifying relationships across entities. Right. As we know, that entity key, entity name, and entity attribute has. And we want to check that what all qualifies as entity name and entity attribute. An entity key can link to only one entity name value and relate to only one attribute for that entity. How will you do that? What we will do is we will first check the campaign IDs. Let's determine if campaign ID qualifies as entity key. And we need to see that if campaign name qualifies as entity, what you do is there is something called a pivot table in your Excel. This is how we actually verify the relationship. You take your data, you create a pivot table. And when you have a pivot table, what I take over here is campaign ID and campaign name. What we see is campaign ID and campaign name has a one-to-one relationship. The case under every campaign, ID we see one campaign name and not 2 or 3. It's a one-to-one relationship. Each ID will have one value of campaign name exists for one campaign ID. Next, we need to check if campaign category is my attribute. Campaign ID and campaign category get selected now. And these, what we see is true. There is only one value per ID. Campaign category as qualifies to be the attribute of the campaign ID. We can see that campaign category is an attribute of the entity campaign. Now the next comes is placement ID and placement, because we have the placement bucket in there as well. What we will do is we will check the relationship between the placement ID and placement. And what we see is we see one value of placement under one placement ID. Correct. It shares a one-to-one relationship. Moving on to placement size. Moving on to placement size as well, we see one value of placement size per placement ID. Again, it's a one-to-one relationship. We can say that for the entities of campaign and placement. A campaign and placement has one entity, key entity name and entity attribute. Placement as well, ID is the entity key. Placement name is the entity name and placement attribute is the placement size. Any question? No, none from my side. Campaign and placement in that data set. As we mentioned, we have one campaign associated with the media buy, and placement is in only what, but now we have the campaign and placement sorted, and we have verified the relationship. But what we need to verify is its placement. A column qualified to be called as media buy or not. For that, what we need to do is we need to check the relationship across entities, as in campaign IDs and placement ID. Correct. Let's pivot it again. And what we see is campaign ID and placement ID as one value. Per campaign, there is one placement only. As we said, media buy is As we said, media buy is the lowest level of granularity, is media buy your placement. We see that per placement ID, we have one campaign ID. It can be mapped to media buyer. Now we have worked with the 6 columns, campaigns and placements, the three columns. What we have now, we are left with day and device category. How to work on that date? Date term goes into the date variable. You remember, right? In general dimensions, we have date and variable, correct? Date gets classified into the date variable and we map it to date. But device category, now we need to check the relationship and see if device category, as we have already discussed, the device category is a variable dimension which shares a many-to-many relationship always. If you check device categories relationship with placement ID, again do a pivot, take placement ID and device category. And you see that one ID has 2 values. Naturally, right? Because a campaign gets displayed in desktop and mobile and laptop. Per campaign, we see that there are 2 values. One ID has 2 values. That does mean that it's a and if we see from the other side as well, that we see that device category has 2 values for placement. ID, hence it is not an attribute of placement, ID. Correct. What do we do about it? We classify it as a variable. We have to do a variable. And device category and geolocations and all these things get mapped as a many-to-many under the data model fields or strategy exchange of traders. Now we have classified all the columns right. We are ready to map them. Mapping doesn't look like this anymore, but this is the old view. Like mapping is the same. Everything is the same. Just that you have an update which makes it look a bit different. What we have learned over here is what is the data model. How do we categorize our data measurements? I mentioned entity keys, names, attributes, days and variables, dataset types and relationships. Any questions among these topics that comes to your mind currently? No, we're not. No, we're not. No, we're not. Now let's do something. This is a superstore data. Now this is a superstore data. Superstore data. Have you worked with superstore data? It's a common example that comes when you do your Tableau or whenever you are doing any kind of training. It's a very good data set to work with. It is available. I'll attitude. What I'll do is I'll provide it today with all the things that I supply you with today. We will do. We will have an exercise. We will have some guides, some PDFs, some handbooks. When I do that, I'll also attach the Superstore data for your reference, and you can go ahead and categorize it yourself. Now, this looks like a real-time data, but can anyone tell me that what is the difference between the other data set that we classified and this data set? No, no, no. You see only the dimensions, but there are like we have measurements. There's many, too many relationship. Many, too many relationship. We have not verified yet. We don't know what is the relationship. We need to create a pivot and verify relationships. What else? First, look what you see and you understand what is the difference between the other data set and this. We have only single entity here. We can be able to do it. No, we have entities, right? We have the vendor entity. We have the order. We have ship modes, customer. See, there are IDs and we have the related things, right? No. There is no like, this letter looks like this is not belongs to digital. This one exactly. This is the marketing data. Correct, 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 correct. That's the correct answer. This is not a digital data. In the start of the training, I was telling you, right? That's people say that it's some marketing intelligence, digital marketing intelligence too. But no, it's not only marketing intelligence tool, but it also helps us work with other sets of data. Now, this is purely an purely order data set. Like how much this is basically. Like it's a sales data and or like, the order data because this works with order IDs, right? How much of orders and how much, what are the orders in there and what are the ship date, ship mode, customers, segment, country, state, and then now, I'm sure there will be measurements like sales and stuff. It's purely an order data set and it's not a digital marketing data set or an ads data set that we have seen, right? Let's see, like, what are the commonalities in here? We have vendor name and vendor ID being one of the entities. Order ID, of course, this is an assays data sheet. Order will be its main entity. If we check it in that manner, it will be it's just this is order ID, order date, ship date, and ship mode being like being the common factors because orders and shipment is something that comes hand in hand. When the order was done and what was the ship mode and what was the ship date, customer segment and customer name is one of the common factors that we see over here. And then country, city, state, postal code. These are some of the variable dimensions that we have in the data. Right. And what else do we have? We have the product category, subcategory, and product name, which is basically a part of the product entities that we are guessing. We are not sure, right? We are guessing now. How will we be sure about it? We will be sure about it when we verify the relationships. Once, 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 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 8 seconds, 2 seconds, any 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Sorry guys, very sorry about it. I had an Amazon guy banging my door like anything. We have these are some of the dimensions that we are guessing that these are part of the same process and they're together. But we will verify relationships and then we have the measurements like sales quantity, discount, and profit, right? Let's check the relationship within entities. Within entities, when we want to check, we have again going back over to this sheet whereby we have the order date, ship mode, and ship mode. These are the order ID, order date, ship date, and ship mode, right? What we will do is first we will check that if ship mode is there is only one ship mode per order date because that should be the way, right? There can be only one shipping mode for one order date. You order one it. You are place one order. There can be multiple options while choosing the ship mode, but when it gets chosen, it is only one ship mode, right? We need to verify that if ship mode is an attribute of the order it column, and then what we do is a pivot and we see that, once coming in, 0 is something that just ignore the 0 because that 0 is nothing but the blanks that got selected while selecting. Just ignore it. What we see is only one value per order rate. Ship mode can be an attribute of the order rate, next vendor ID, and vendor name. It's pretty easy because it's only this much of data that we see. We see that, per vendor, there is only one vendor name when the name is, of course, an attribute of the column vendor ID. Coming to product ID and product name, we see that product ID and product name has a one-to-one relationship. Again, we can say that product name and vendor name can be the entity names for their respective entity keys. Next, coming to product ID, category and subcategory. Remember, we had the product ID, right? These 4 columns where the product tab is popping up. Product ID, category, subcategory, and product name. Right now, let's verify product ID and product name as 0, 0, and 1. Now let's verify if category and subcategory qualifies to be attributes of product ID or not. When we do a favorite table, what we see is yes, there is only one value per product ID for one cutting product, one value for category and subcategory per product ID. Category and subcategory can be an attribute of the product. There comes my end to the end to checking all the columns that were pertaining to the certain IDs in the data. Right? We now know that what are my entity keys and what are my attributes for those keys. Now, when we have that, what we will do is we will check the relationships across entities. But while we go for across entities, and why do we do that? All those things, we are clear what we are aiming towards and what we are trying to do in here. Yes, we know we are. We are good. I'm counting on that. We are good till now. Now that we have verified that that we now know that what all columns are the attributes for the specific entities. Now we need to check. Now it's a sales data order it. I'm like counting on order it to be the main entity because that's where it starts, right? That's an order it should have what we had told earlier that an order and an entity is becomes a main entity when it is the most granular part of the data, correct in any of the e-commerce business. If you consider the sales funnel, it starts with an order. Right, you may have all those awareness consideration. Forget it now when the conversion happens. What is a conversion? What is a checkout? Once you do a checkout, it's basically the order aid or the order being placed in Amazon or in Flipkart or in any of the like, the e-commerce websites that you use. The first step is order it. Ordered. I'm considering order it to be the most granular part of the sales data because once order aid is generated, everything else starts off correct. Now we need to verify that. How is order aid related to the entities across? Now what we are doing is we are trying to see the relationship between order aid, customer name, and segment. A customer was order aid and customer aid are two different entities in my data, correct? Now what I am trying to do is I am trying to check with order aid and customer aid that how are order aid and customer aid related and their attributes. Now I know that customer name and segment, we had verified that customer name and segment are some things which are part of the order, right? Which are part of the customer ID and their attributes of the customer ID, right? Now we will see how order aid and customer aid is related to one another. Now, when I do that, we see that we have only one value. When we have one value, we can say that the entity customer aid, customer name, and segment are attributes of order aid, right? Then we go ahead and check, what is the relationship between order ID and vendor ID, and we see that it is a one-to-one relationship between order ID and vendor ID. Because one order can be fulfilled by only one vendor, correct? However, when we go ahead with vendor aid to order aid, one vendor has lots of order aids to fulfill, right? One vendor aid is one. Order aid is attributed towards one vendor aid, but one vendor aid we can cater to numerous order aids, right? You order a shoe from your e-commerce site. Your shoe order has one order aid and that is fulfilled by only one vendor that you choose during your purchase. If you take an example, I've seen for the two respective e-commerce sites with their vendors called Cloudtail and Viz Retail and Stuffs. Cloudtail being a vendor, what it does is it fulfills my order, right? One order that I place is fulfilled by a vendor called Cloudtail. There are other vendors, but then I choose Cloudtail and Cloudtail fulfills it. It's a one to one relationship. However, if I check Cloud Tail's point of view towards order eats, as I placed an order, a Praveen placed an order, Anil placed an order, Cloud Tail, when we all have placed an order and it is being fulfilled by Cloud Tail being the vendor aid, it caters to numerous order aids. It's a one-to-many relationship. Clear Cloud Tail is not just right. You can see a one-to-many relationship now. Have we seen such kind of a relationship earlier in our ads data set? We did right. A campaign to media buy had a one-to-many relationship. However, a media buy to campaign had one-to-one relationships, right? Just try to remember the model when, like you know how to classify your data. Just try to remember the model when you are classifying any non-digital data set. Even if you know the model and if you have verified the relationships, and if you see that what and how I can translate those relationships into the framework that I have as ads data in an ads data set, it will be very easy for you to map your data. This is a non-digital thing, but if my concept is clear, then I can go ahead and map it to the respective placeholders and I can work with non-digital data as well, right? Next comes order it to product it. When I check order it to product it, an order it can have multiple products. You may have added to your cart 5 or 6 items and you choose to. When you check it out, what happens? One order it, there is one aid, but there are 5, 6 products that you've chosen right at a single time. And then for a product it to order it relationship as well, what happens? One product ad can be one product aid, as in, like you know, a product right that can be related to many order aid. Many of us can order a red shoe from Guxi maybe. One product it is attributed towards many order aids because it shares a many-to-many relationship, and one order it can have many products in it. Both of these select a many-to-many relationship. If we translate it in terms of the ads data set model, then did we see any column that used to share a many-to-many relationship? Hello, did we see any many-to-many relationships in the ads data set? We did right. Creative shared a many-to-many relationship with media by, yes, we know exchange and share many-to-many strategy, right? Exchange and strategies are placeholders that can facilitate your many-to-many relationships. Here again, we see many-to-many relationships coming in. If I'm mapping these columns in Datorama Week, I can map it to creative, I can map it to exchange, I can map it to strategy because those are the placeholders for my many-to-many relationships. Perfect. Now we come to that point where we are classifying a non-digital data set, but we are trying to model it or date like, using the Datorama data model. We are trying to put it into the framework for ourselves. Now a vendor can has a one-to-many relationship with the order aid. Order aid is my main entity in the NAN, not like, in my sales data set. Correct translating it back. Media buy is my main entity in my ads data set, right? And campaign shares a one-to-many relationship with the media buy. Likewise, site also does it. What I'll do is I can go ahead and map vendor to campaign, order to media buy, and then again order and product shares a many-to-many relationship, how and when we translate it. Media by and creative also has a many to many relationship in there. What we can do is we can go ahead and map product to creative order to media buy and vendor to campaign. And I'm good with my data modeling because I verified the relationships. I found my entity keys, I found my entity names, I found my entity attributes. I've classified all the similar attributes, similar entities with their own name and attributes. I've verified the relationship between what I'm considering as a main entity and with all the other entities at place, and we see that all other entities are attributes of the main entity. I'm sure that my main entity is good enough. I've verified the relationships between many to many, many to many columns which share a many to many relationship with the main entity. And when I'm sure from all the angles that I know my entities and the relationships verified, I can go ahead and map them to the Datorama data model and we should be good about it. Is it clear? Is it? Are we good? Do we understand what we are trying to do over here? Great, we are good, right? We will be taking formulas later, but in the start of the session, I was discussing a colleague's function with someone who had asked me about what to do about it. This is a very small example, just like it's a recorded session, right? It's a recorded session when we do formulas and when we check the other types of formulas that are there. When we do the extract and all those formulas. We will check it then. But, what I thought? What happened to me was I was about to forget about this formula. I kept it in a slide. I know it's irrelevant for now, but then it's not nothing. It's irrelevant, but all stays back. It's nothing. But it's a police function that I was talking about the other day in the starting of the session. A common example of mapping formulas, colleagues. What happens? You get your data from your account manager or anyone who gives you a data. You see your old file which you ingest every month. It has a media by key in capital letter M, right? Capital N, capital B, capital K. But by mistake, what this guy has done in the new file, he has kept all those in small letters. Right now, if you do upload it, Datorama won't understand this and it will consider it as a new column and it won't ingest. For that, as it is case sensitive, for that, what we do is we go to the media by key. You know that the mapping field. And what we do is we go to the formula field of the mapping field and we write a function called coalesce. And what we define the two columns, the old one and the new one. That Datorama understands that. You know what? If you see both these things in there, both the things mean the same to us. And what Datorama will do is it will first go to media by key with the capital M, fetch the values, and it'll like this is there. And then go to the second value and say, oh, if I see things in small letters as well, what I should do is I should consider it as part of the media by key column. And what I do is I'll append those new data that has come in and then nothing goes for a mess for us. Coalesce function comes very handy if you face any situation whereby you need to use it perfect. As we have seen, once you log into your data, once you log into Datorama, you get a connected mix analyze and active visualize. Now let's see how connected mix works. Suppose I do a create new and I have total connect and I have the appears here, right? I go to Total Connect and get an option on dragging and dropping. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and drop a file over here. When I drop this file, what Datorama does is it automatically, if you're on tablet, you will also see that a first preview screen comes up, right, whereby you can do your manipulations and all these things. But over here, what I'm doing is a simple mapping how it works. Here you give your data set name. You dragged and dropped you placed your data set in there and now you give it as say test. And this is a mapping and you see all these have been identified. The day column, date is classic. Date is date is taken as a format of date and then all the text has been taken as strings. They are string format and then you have the number format, impression, clicks and media. If you go to a next, yes, we will do that. We will do that. Once you do a next, what happens is firstly you see Datorama has Datorama has identified the data set and what it does is what it does. Is it? It recognizes your data set as ads data set. Right now, you may say, how about the if I don't want it to be an ads data set, if it is something that you don't want to be an ads data set or something, and you want to see any of the other things, you can go over here. There you get here. If you go over here, you can see that there are types of data sets that you get to see. When you go to the data stream types, you see its ad set, data search keywords, ad verification, conversion tags, web analytics, event tags pages, e-commerce conversion tags, messaging by data, competitive products, social listening, like whatever you can gauge from your site and whatever you think can be the data stream types. It is present, and then we don't know. There is a color combination. Sorry, I will get you when you click on the switch. There you can see different color, green, yellow, and that's because why is that? Why is that? Why is it toggled for these? Because search keywords and ads data, like search keywords is part of the components of this data set is present in ads data set and search keywords data set. That's why this data set is also on, because you see campaign, you see clear cost media fractions in search keywords as well, right? That's why this data model is also on in here. It's showing like most matching data set. Yes, yes. We know after mapping, like sometime can we come back and change the data. You can, right, you can, what you can do is, but then you have to go for a remapping again because you change your data set. What happens is the placeholders get changed even, right? If it is changed from anything like from ads data set to you feel that it's a web analytics, though it's not a web analytics. It won't be giving you fields to map, but if you want, I will do it as a generic data stream. What happens is then all these main entities and sub entities get changed to generic names and sub entities. What I'll do is these left side columns that you see. Now, these are coming from the raw data, and these right side columns that you see, these are all Datorama model fields. How will you separate them? You see, it comes with a symbol of model fields, and these come as, sysvs or apps. These are the strings, and these are the model fields. Basically, you are just putting these values in here to the model fields that we can map them correctly. Uh, when we say that a key or an aid, that key aid is mapped as a key over here. Oh, let me do a small thing. That is, if you want to unmap something, this is mapped. When you have and say, suppose you want to unmap, this is unmap. You just click over here, your campaign key gets unmapped. Then again, you go back here and go ahead and check, can I create a key? You can do this and you can apply it over here. Now, as we mentioned, Colley's function. Well, how will you do Colley's function? You go over here and there is your formula editor, and what you do is you go ahead and write the slide, write the function over here at the formulas. Formulas we will take up later. This is just to give you the mapping experience. Mapping happen now. Then there are fields called custom attributes. What are custom attributes? Suppose you have identified columns which are attributes of the media by key. When we say attributes of the media by like and say, suppose media by size is over here, say anything like, placement dimension, placement, whatever, like, those things are parts of the placement, which is basically comes under the media by key. Now, each entity is blessed with the custom attributes mapping. If I go over here, I can see that there are empty placeholders for, and these are like media by customer attributes. If you want to map anything like these many columns won't be there in your data set, always, right? Then there are media by custom attributes. You can go ahead and map your external field, whatever you want to as media by custom attributes. And you can see that there are around 40 custom attributes that per entity has. And then there is, and what you can do is you can go ahead and map your customer attributes. Similarly, campaign as well. One sec. Similarly, campaign also has you see, we were mentioning about exchange and strategy, right? You see, exchange, custom attributes, strategy, custom attributes. These are basically for your many-to-many site media by you have all these custom attributes. Custom attributes come here likewise. These are the custom attributes are nothing but all the attributes that you see as a part of an entity, because entity attributes can be many, right? Whatever attributes qualify to be a part of an entity, you can map them all into the custom attributes columns. Then you have your measurements in here, and on and forth. Here you can quickly write a formula and map it to a column. We will do that. We will do that when we are there, but from where we started off was when we are doing this mapping right over here. We need to be very much sure about the data model that we map it to. Wherever we have one-to-one relationship, wherever we have one-to-many relationship, we need to be careful of that part, and then many-to-many relationships in creative strategy and exchange columns. We do, cool. These things have been done. Now, if you have from here, you can just check our data stream. Types adds dataset, adds verification. We have seen that. How to do that? Mapping and unmapping. Also, we have done the left and right of the module fields. There are. There can be unmapped fields which you need to map. You can create custom fields by using formulas, and you can map your device and start. If you have mapped your device and if you want to write any formulas, you can go ahead and write a formula. We will do formulas. This is not something that I want to spend much time now. Oh, this is a small thing. This is like whenever you are in a data set, and whenever you have mapped your data, always do go and verify it from the paper table, because that's how you know that you have mapped it pretty well. And whenever there are custom columns coming in, you need to be pretty much aware of what are custom columns and how to deal with custom columns, and how do they deal with your native columns. This is very important. Why? Because think about a situation whereby you have created a calculated dimension or a calculated measurement. Now, a calculated measurement is created at a workspace level and not specific to any particular data stream. Like, what I mean is when you create a CPC calculation in your custom, custom measurement, when you go ahead and you do a custom I'm done calculated measurement. When you create from measurements in Datorama, it doesn't belong to only my data stream or Google data stream or ads data stream or anything. No, that is true for the entire workspace. In any of your view, when you want a CPC to be highlighted where there is clicks and impressions and you want CPC, you can drag that calculated measurement in there, right? Whenever you drag that calculated measurement in, we need to be sure that you know how it reacts to the native variables like impressions or clicks. These are native variables in your dataset, and when you drag this column of CPC, we need to be sure that this is reciprocating well with all the already present columns in here, correct? And when you are sure about it, then you need to proceed towards the next. In this terms very helpful. See, it got created. Now what I need to do is say, suppose I have calculated measurements that I have dragged it. Always what I'll do is, once it is created, we need to go and check it in the paper table, right? I need to be aware of the dates, what I have. I have see the whether I'm interested in me. I can go ahead and make some the selected. I can choose a campaign name and If you want to, see how your data has been updated, you can go over here, choose your campaign key, campaign name, and apply. What happens? The pivot table gives you a first hand preview of how my data looks like. You can very well export a pivot as well. You can create a widget, you can schedule and export. You can export it as a flat table, like you created something like this, and you can actually create a widget out of it. If you create a widget, what happens is it goes to your, whatever workspace you want it to go to, and you can create a widget and you can verify whatever is there. Now, now comes this part which I wanted to touch base on, that is automating the process. One. Now everyone, we good. How to create a data stream, basic, voila. We are good, right? Any questions? We're good, cool. Now comes the automating part of it. Like not automating, but I have nothing to do here, but I have nothing to do with that, but we are going to do with that. But I have a question. Actually, I have a question over here, is there any particular date format for this? Need to be followed because the date format won't be uniform from different portals, and if we compare different values between different portals, there will be an issue because of this date format. Is there any way to correct those things? What happens is whenever you upload in any form, be it do me why made or any sort of things, whatever format you want to upload, you can, and Datorama recognizes it. There is no fixed date format that you need to follow or any default date format, as in, tools like Alteryx or middleware tools. They have a specific date type that they want to. But, Salesforce uses YDD, and then here miss whatever zone or whatever time or whatever date you want to add it. Add in Salesforce, I think, I don't think, but you can basically map it to the date format and you don't need to change it off in mapping itself. If you go to date format, sorry, if you go to preview source now over here, when you see your date right, your day column gets mapped in here. If you just go over here and check, it's YMDD is MEMS format right now. If you want to make a change to it, you can go ahead and use any of the formats or use a custom format for yourself. After that, we are previewing the data. Can we do preview? Can we preview the data after doing API? Also obey connection. That's a good question. With APIs, what we need to do is do we have this view in API? Try to recall it. I don't think. Once you have connected your data, what happens is in APIs, you need to choose your respective measurements and dimensions. Because once you connect to an API, what do you know? After the credentials you have done and everything, what you need to do is you need to put your measurements and dimensions, and then when you have done preview screen, we need to be back on that. But definitely we can do a pivot table or a widget table whereby we can put the data. We have the initial breakdown and extended properties, location, and everything done. Let this be as a question. I need to check if we get a preview screen. But if you don't get a preview screen and as well, once you have mapped it, you can go ahead and check it in the favorite. We'll wait for this. Yes. What I'll do is I'll get my credentials in this, the Google Ads credentials, and then we will do it. Once you have done all these connections and stuffs and to the tables and everything you have checked. Now, what you always do is also go to edit, and there is something called an advanced settings. Whenever you have to push your data to Datorama, what you can do is you can mention the date, domain name of the user, ID and password, and what you can do is you can automate the system. Suppose it's a cadence of a day or maybe in a weekly manner that you want to ingest your data in, you can. What you can do is you can configure an FTP a domain whereby you can have your user ID and password, and what happens is automatic data pushing happens again. Retrieval is the same way that you can retrieve or pull data by means of whereby you can set the delivery run frequency, and you can also choose your delivery method, how it gets delivered. FTP people, BigQuery Drive, whatever you want to, you can. You can get your data from a particular data stream. You can get your data to yourself, or you can retrieve or pull data in from FTP server, or you can configure your email in there, whereby whenever data hits or schedules, you have your email and password configured. What happens is this kind of an automation can happen. We will do a small automation for a file in this training itself, and we will see how it works. But this is how you can retrieve or you can deliver, push data or pull data from any of the sources that you have, be it email or be it your FTP domain, and you can get the data to be pulled through the various methods, and also the delivery methods are also there. There are loads of delivery methods that are there. We have BigQuery, we have Redshift. Now we have the cloud storage, we have Drive. We can go ahead and do the automations in our data stream. Please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel. For more information, contact us sales@therightuptalk.com.